to my professional publications presentation. I looked at AMLE magazine from October of 2016 and Middle School Journal.
First, I'm going to do a comparison of these publications, both generally and then also focused on the issues that I reviewed.
AMLE magazine is primarily for educators. I looked at the submission guidelines for articles, and they indicated that articles should be practitioner-oriented and speak directly to those in middle grade schools and classrooms. It uses fairly informal colloquial language. Articles are to be written in an informal conversational style. For example, in the intro article, which focused on the This We Believe standards and development of young adolescents, there was a reference to the idea that middle school students are a hot mess. That's probably not something that we would see in a more academic journal. There are numerous short practice-based articles, usually about 2 pages each. There were also a number of regular features that were toward the back, such as a question and answer feature and a feature of interesting recent quotes regarding middle grades education. It's very user-friendly, very much like a magazine. I was able to download an entire PDF of this issue, so I read it pretty much like a magazine. It includes references to online resources. There were links to videos, extras that were very interesting. There was a large variety of authors. Some were professors, some were actual classroom teachers. Others were educational consultants who had previously been in the classroom. There were a lot more graphics and photographs in AMLE. There were also, it was just visually more appealing. There were not any research-based articles or what are particularly academic articles in there, but it was really geared toward the practitioner. I could see it would be very useful for ideas regarding what to do in the classroom. Middle School Journal is more of an academic publication. The articles tended to be much lengthier, 6 to 8 pages on average. Though this also is geared to practitioners in the field, also it would be very useful for those who are teaching education in universities and to get new ideas about research. The articles tended to have fewer pictures and graphics, but it was still fairly user-friendly. The citations of these articles were lengthy in endnotes, where in AMLE they were just cited in the text, briefly cited. This is a referee journal, which means that every submission before it's published is actually reviewed by a 3-member panel of experts to look at the submission before it actually gets into the journal. So there's nothing that's just a little bit of opinion or a short little idea, tale of what happened in the classroom one day. This also focuses on the This We Believe standards. Authors must reference and integrate at least one of the 16 characteristics of successful schools for young adolescents. In general, I felt like the articles in this publication were a little more useful. They provided a lot more substance, in my opinion, though I can see how the AMLE magazine would be a little easier to read, easier to just browse through and get some ideas. But really the biggest difference I thought was the fact that this is a referee journal with much more academic articles.
Now I'm going to look at AMLE magazine from October of 2016, when the cover story was 7 Habits of Instructional Leaders. Here's a list of the articles and authors from the October of 2016 AMLE magazine. These are shorter articles. They're all practice-based articles focusing on pointers for the classroom, personal experiences. Some of them were very practical, such as the Enhance Your Web Browsing Experience by Autumn de Groot just gave pointers for web applications that were particularly helpful for teachers. These articles were about 2 pages each. They didn't have citations as endnotes. They just had short citations within the article. I focused on, as one of the authors, Julie Adams. She wrote the cover story, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Instructional Leaders. She is now an educational consultant. She's a former classroom teacher. She does lots of speaking engagements. She has written a number of books, and just a general educational consultant for K-12. Her website is effectiveteachingpd.com. And the other authors tended to be, a few of them were professors, some of them were classroom teachers, and then a few of them were educational consultants. Now I'm going to look at Middle School Journal from November of 2011, and this is actually 5 years earlier than the AMLE magazine issue that I looked at, so that may impact some of the differences between these publications. The cover story was engaging and motivating young adolescent learners. Here are the articles that were listed, and there were fewer articles and more lengthy articles, so I was able to provide both the article name, the author name, and just a little short description of what these articles were about. The first 3 were research-based articles. Was interested to see that none of these were based on any sort of extensive large research basis. They were all just one classroom or one school looking specifically at practices there and then drawing conclusions based on those practices. The one that I focused on was actively engaging middle level students with photojournals by Dr. Ranji Shankar Brown. So we'll look at that in just a moment. We also had practice-based articles in here, and then the last few articles were really similar to what we've been reading about the history and theory of the middle school movement. I was interested to see John H. Lounsbury and Paul S. George as authors in this. The Lounsbury article was really just an intro to the George article, but it was really interesting to see. He was talking about a 2011 education symposium and talked extensively about the legacy of the middle school in their own words book in a presentation that Dr. Smith and Ken McEwen had given at this 2011 symposium and the work they had done. He also introduced the George article, and the George article was very lengthy, and it gave a history and theory regarding the middle school movement and the future of the movement. He talked about conservative versus progressive views of education. He said, "I believe that both the progressive worldview and the middle school movement are in the short run both in great danger." And this is by far the lengthiest article in this issue. Was wanting to focus on a few of these authors. Dr. Sarah Davis Powell, I looked at her because she's at Belmont Abbey College in North Carolina. She's the chair of the education department there and an author of 2 popular textbooks regarding middle grades education. Also looked at P. Gail Andrews. She's a co-author of Turning Points 2000. She's also a professor at University of Georgia in Athens, and she got her PhD at UNC. And she's also a 2011 Lounsbury Award winner. The practice-based article that I'm going to look at is What We Say Matters by Shauna F. King from AMLE Magazine. She is a former principal and teacher, was in education in the classroom and the schools for 20 years, but she's now an educational consultant in her own firm, does speaking engagements, consulting with different schools. She's also an adjunct professor. This article focused on the power of positive talk and focused on how it's important that what we say to students matters, that one little negative word can really impact students. So she gives us some strategies for speaking positively to students. She gave 4 suggested methods. The first was confirm concerns, then meet them with optimism. She said you may say, I know the project does look like it's going to be difficult, but I know that you can do it based on your skills, for example. The second point she gave was that rhetorical questions generally are just not effective and can be very discouraging. Rather than saying something like, "What's your problem?" or "What did you think before you did that?" you should say, "Is there a reason you're behaving this way? Can I do something to help?" The third pointer she gave was give them more than a name, give them a new perception. She said it was very important to call students by their name. That grabs the person's attention and communicates respect. But she also suggested that we go further than that and kind of give nicknames to students. So she says, rather than saying Greg, say Greg the geography whiz. And that can be very effective in engaging students. She also, for the fourth pointer, said wishing them well goes a long way. She proposed that at the beginning of a school day or a period that the teacher should just take a few moments where they connect with students before instruction begins and say something on the lines of, I want everyone to have a great day today. I want everyone to learn something important today. I thought this was an important article because it focuses on being positive when we talk with students. What will middle school students remember about what you said to them? And I thought it gave some good pointers in the classroom. I know that we can get discouraged, and we just need to make sure that we are speaking positively to students and that can really have a positive outcome for them. The research-based article that I focused on from Middle School Journal was Actively Engaging Middle-Level Students with Photojournals by Dr. Ranji Shankar Brown. Dr. Brown is a professor at Stetson University, but when this article was written, she was at UNC Wilmington. Her research is focused on poverty and social justice-related issues in education. This was a qualitative study. It looked at one middle school classroom in an urban, largely minority school. And it looked at all students, but focused on 3 specific students who were considered to be reluctant learners, who were not particularly engaged academically. And all the students engaged in a 2-week project where they were given access to digital cameras. They were told to take 8 to 10 pictures that were representative of their lives. It was very open-ended to allow them a lot of voice and ability to express themselves. Once the pictures were taken, they worked in the computer lab, printing, formatting, and making these actual physical journals. They were then to write about the pictures. It was very open-ended again, and then they reviewed each other's journals. After the project was done, researchers looked at student responses and what they thought of the project, particularly the 3 reluctant learners. One of these reluctant learners said, "This project has been the best thing I've ever done in school." And just generally, the responses were overwhelmingly positive. The findings were that as a motivating and engaging instructional strategy, photojournals fulfill the "this we believe" recommendations for active, purposeful learning and in challenging, exploratory, integrative, and relevant curriculum. This was, it really engaged learners who were normally not engaged. It helped to build community in the classroom. I really believe in the value of hands-on projects. That's why I chose this article. I felt it was very interesting. I believe that it can basically be very important for a student to be able to express themselves in this way. This is something I probably would use in the classroom, though I'm in the social studies focus, so I would maybe have them do something about their cultural or family background rather than just something that's a little more open-ended like this. But generally I felt like this was very important. It was research-based, so it was based on just a limited number of students in this one classroom, but the researchers felt like they were able to get some pretty significant findings from this about the value of photojournals for students. For a research idea going forward, as I mentioned, I'm really interested in hands-on learning and project-based learning, which is why I focused on the photojournal article from Middle School Journal. There was also another article in that journal regarding different types of project-based learning, and it was a study of a specific charter school that engages in a lot of projects, hands-on projects. I would propose additional research on specific types of project-based learning and the effectiveness of the different projects that allow students to participate in a meaningful way, particularly in middle grade social studies. Believe that hands-on projects are valuable to connect students to the curriculum and actively engage them in learning. Also, I think they make a lasting impression on students. So I really think this is something I would like to focus more on. I think this would be more appropriate for the middle school journal because it would be based on research, and also it would probably require a fairly lengthy, or not. I don't think it could be dealt with in 2 pages, like the ALME magazine articles. So that's my idea going forward.